hook. They told me I couldn't have the freedom to power my own home. They sent men to rip apart my solar panels like they were stealing my future. And when they thought I'd just sit back and take a broken bar, I did something they'll never forget. I cut the power to their entire neighborhood. Every light, every appliance, every screen gone. And what happened next? The broken bar changed everything. The first time I saw them walking up my driveway, I knew trouble was coming. Men in uniform, clipboards in hand, and expressions that screamed authority rather than empathy. My solar panels, the pride of my modest home, gleamed under the morning sun, feeding my family with clean, sustainable energy and a sense of independence I had fought years to achieve. And now, my Homeowners Association, the very people I had trusted to uphold our community's rules, was trying to take it all away. It wasn't just about energy. It was about autonomy, about the quiet rebellion against the system that often punished those who dared to think differently. For months, I had argued, pleaded, and submitted paperwork proving the panels were legal, safe, and beneficial not just for me but for the environment. But every email, every letter, every explanation had been met with bureaucratic coldness, until now, when they sent actual workers to remove them. I remember standing at the edge of my lawn, gripping my phone as if it were a lifeline, while they unloaded tools from a truck. My neighbors peeked from behind curtains, their eyes filled with curiosity, fear, and maybe a little satisfaction. I wasn't sure which. And in that moment, I felt a storm of emotions: anger, fear, frustration, and a deep, burning sense of injustice. "Sir, these panels are in violation of HOA rules," one of them said, his voice clipped and rehearsed. "You need to step aside." I wanted to scream. I wanted to explain that the rule itself was outdated, that the community could benefit from this energy, that my family had the right to make choices about our home. But none of that mattered. They didn't come to understand. They came to enforce. My wife, Sarah, had joined me in the front yard, her hand finding mine. "Maybe we should just a broken bar," she started, her voice trailing off, fear etched in her eyes. But I shook my head. We had fought too hard to give in now. As they reached the first panel, my stomach sank, but the spark of defiance ignited inside me. Not defiance for the sake of rebellion, but for the principle of standing up for what's right. I knew I couldn't stop them physically, but I also knew there were other ways to fight, other ways to make them understand the weight of their arrogance. The man began unbolting the panels, the clanging of metal against metal sounding like a countdown to defeat. My mind raced. Years of research, money saved, dreams of energy independence, all being dismantled in front of me. And then, amidst the chaos, an idea surfaced, reckless but impossible to ignore. If they wanted to enforce control, maybe it was time to show them what life without power really felt like. It wasn't just about retaliation. It was about drawing attention to the absurdity of the situation, about making the entire neighborhood, the people who had stood silently by while injustice unfolded, feel a fraction of the frustration and helplessness I felt every day. I glanced at Sarah, who caught the determination in my eyes. She didn't speak, but she understood. The anger in my chest transformed into resolve. The fight wasn't over yet, and not even close. And as the workers prepared to lift the first solar panel off the roof, I made a silent vow. If they thought this would break me, they were about to learn that fighting for what's right sometimes requires shocking the world, one circuit at a time. The first chapter of this battle was about to end, but the war had just begun. As the workers raised the first panel, I acted. My fingers flew across the control panel I had installed months ago, the one that allowed me to monitor and control every connection in the neighborhood's shared grid. It had started as a personal project, an experiment in efficiency and renewable energy management. Now, it was my tool of justice. The lights flickered, the hum of air conditioners stopped mid-breath, televisions froze on live broadcasts, phones blinked and died. One by one, the neighborhood plunged into darkness. At first, I didn't see the reactions, hidden behind blinds and curtains. But then the sounds reached me: frantic footsteps, shouting, the sudden thrum of generators being started. The workers froze. Their grip on my panels loosened. Confusion spread across their faces, a mixture of fear and disbelief. "What a broken bar, what's happening?" one stammered. glancing at his clipboard as if it held the answer. I stepped forward, heart pounding but voice steady. This is what it feels like when power is taken from the people. When decisions are made without understanding, without respect, without care. I fight for my home, my family, and the right to make choices that affect our lives, and I will not stand by while others try to erase that. From behind their windows, neighbors peered out. Some were angry, some scared, some fascinated. A few came to the doors, hesitant but curious. And then, slowly, something remarkable happened. Conversations started, questions were asked. People began realizing that the HOA had imposed rules without listening, without consideration for the community, without understanding that energy could be both personal and communal. Sarah joined me, holding our daughter close. "It's scary," she whispered. "But to broken bar they're finally listening." And they were. By the end of the first hour, my phones buzzed incessantly with neighbors reaching out, not in anger, but in solidarity. Some offered to help reinstate power if I promised to negotiate. Others admitted they had quietly wanted solar panels themselves but feared the backlash. Slowly, the tide was turning. By sunset, the HOA president himself appeared, flanked by two men in suits. He looked flustered, his confidence shaken by the palpable discontent of the community. "He's a broken bar. This isn't necessary," he muttered, attempting to regain control. "It is necessary," I said calmly, looking over the gathered crowd. "It's necessary to understand that rules aren't above people, that innovation, sustainability, and common sense should guide our decisions, not arbitrary mandates. And it's necessary to respect the choices we make for our homes, our families, and our planet." There was silence. Then, slowly, applause, small at first, then louder, swelling until it filled the street. My neighbors weren't cheering for me, they were cheering for fairness, for courage, for the right to fight for what mattered. And in that moment, I realized something. The panels weren't just my victory, they were ours. Negotiations began that night. The HOA was forced to reconsider their policies. Solar panels became not only allowed but encouraged. I returned the power to the neighborhood, but the lesson lingered like an electric current, a reminder that sometimes, standing up takes bold action and that courage inspires change far beyond what one person can imagine. Later, sitting on my porch, Sarah beside me, our daughter playing at our feet, I looked up at the panels still glinting in the twilight. They had been the catalyst, yes, but the real victory was deeper respect, community, and the knowledge that sometimes, justice requires daring to flip the switch. And as the neighborhood lights gradually flickered back to life, I smiled, not with triumph over others, but with the quiet, enduring satisfaction that standing up for what's right can illuminate even the darkest moments. Sometimes, the smallest spark, like a solar panel on a roof, it can light up an entire world.